Hey learning enthusiasts, Professor Leis here. In this video I'm going to read through and explain the prompt for major essay project number 1. So let's go ahead and get started. Construct an essay of at least 4 full pages that informs your audience about a value that is important to you, establishes your personal definition of the value, and demonstrates an intricate understanding of how your personal history or experiences have contributed to its creation and evolution. Let's go ahead and parse this out. So if we're paying attention to the way the sentence is constructed, there are 3 different sections that this prompt is asking us to tackle. So the first thing, which is kind of the overall guiding command for the prompt, is to construct an essay that informs your audience of a value that is important to you. So what a value is, it's something that a principle or a belief that influences the way that you live your life, the types of decisions that you make, the experiences you seek out, your tastes, preferences, all of those things depend on what we hold to be important. In other words, our values. So in this essay project, we're trying to identify one single value that we think is the most important to us. So there's a whole range of different kinds of values that you can focus on. So it could be something like family relationships, education, faith, or maybe it's something like love or compassion, intellectual pursuit, curiosity, art, all of these different things. There's so many different kinds of values that you can focus on. But the key thing is to make sure that it is one value and it is your most important, what you hold to be the most important. Now the second aspect of this is we want to make sure that we're establishing a personal definition of the value. So there are a lot of different ways to define different things. So for example, love, if that is the value that you hold to be most important, we need to figure out how we're defining that, because love is a very broad term and there are a lot of different ways to define it based on context and different players or actors within that, right? So we want to make sure that we're defining it for our audience. What is the definition of this value? Now you can use established definitions already, but the key thing is you want to make sure that you're explaining why it's important to you in that regard. Okay. The third thing is we want to make sure that we're demonstrating an intricate understanding of how our value has been influenced by our personal history or experiences, how those things have led to the creation and evolution of that value. Okay, so the things that we hold to be important are often dictated by our experiences, personal history, the way that we were raised, where we live. All of these different factors go into the things that we hold to be important. And so it's really important that we're demonstrating for our readers that we have a nuanced, complex understanding of how our personal history and experiences have influenced the values creation and evolution. Okay, so it's really important that we're paying attention to those 3 aspects of the overall prompt. And then of course, by the time we submit our polished draft, it will be a minimum of 4 full pages in length. It could be more than 4 full pages, but it can't be fewer, okay? But a minimum of at least 4 full pages by the time we submit our polished draft. So the polished draft is the 3rd draft that we will compose. So drafts 1 and 2, of course, we'll be working our way up to the 4 full pages. Let's continue. This essay project is your chance to put into practice all of the concepts we've been reading and learning about so far this term. Be sure to review your notes and reread important selections we've covered from Habits of the Creative Mind. Resist your familiar habits and practices as writers. Try something new and exciting, follow your curiosity, take risks, and attempt to have fun while composing this essay. I didn't mean this last part sarcastically. I really do hope that you're able to have fun while we're working on this essay project. But what I want you guys to pay attention to is examine how you may have approached essays in the past and see if there are different ways, different approaches that you can take to this. Try something new. I'm encouraging you to take risks, to try things that maybe make you feel a little bit uncomfortable in your writing, maybe because you just haven't done it before. Following your curiosity, so making sure that you're pursuing questions that arise for you. Now with this essay project, because it's a personal thing, right, we're examining ourselves, it might be a little bit easier to follow our curiosity, but still I want everyone to follow our curiosity, take risks, attempt to have fun, try new things in our writing process to make this interesting, and ultimately that's how we learn, right? When we try new things, when we push ourselves beyond our comfort zone, so to speak. For this major essay project, we are challenged to write an essay with a coherent and purposeful structure and organization, employing strategies learned in On Structure, pages 197 through 203 in Habits of the Creative Mind. We haven't read this yet, but we will. So we're encouraged to incorporate some of those strategies that we will learn from that section. So when we use the word coherent, we mean that things logically connect. One point logically leads to the next. It makes logical sense in that way. Purposeful, meaning that we've thought consciously about it. We've made choices, deliberate choices in the way that we've chosen to structure and organize our essay. So really I'm asking everyone to make choices in their writing, but really to think consciously about the way that they're structuring their essay. We're challenged to include specific and relevant examples and or textual evidence that help develop a central point. So we want to make sure that we're including specific and relevant examples. Some of you may choose to incorporate textual evidence, meaning quotations from things that you've read or seen, and that's great. I highly encourage that. So we want to make sure that everything that we do include is connected to the central point of our paper. It's all contributing to the overall meaning of it. Everything is connected. We're challenged to write at least 7 purposeful and organized paragraphs, each one focusing on a distinct point or idea that helps develop the overall point of the essay. So I've touched on this briefly already, but one thing that we're moving beyond in our class is the 5-paragraph essay structure. Now that might be the structure we've grown accustomed to, or how we were taught to write essays, whether in high school or elsewhere. But as we'll be learning, the 5-paragraph essay structure is a very limiting form. It doesn't help us expand our thinking. It just kind of puts our thinking in a 5-paragraph box, so to speak. So a mechanism I built into the prompt is to make sure to get us out of that is to have a minimum of 7 purposeful and organized paragraphs. You can have more, of course, but at least 7 purposeful and organized paragraphs. And again, purposeful meaning that we're making conscious choices about how we're constructing paragraphs, and organized, of course. Not only are the paragraphs organized with one another, but everything within a given paragraph is organized, right? We're challenged to treat paragraphs as a unified progression of ideas rather than disconnected items in a list. This is something that we'll be striving for in our class, is making sure that our paragraphs are connected in such a way where they're progressing the idea forward, meaning they're all contributing to greater understanding or meaning. They're not just treated as disconnected items in a list, right? We want to make sure that everything leads into the next thing. It's all connected. We're challenged to show a strong awareness of our audience or reader, meaning that we're anticipating things that they would like to know. Oftentimes when we're writing, we often underestimate how much our readers either already know about the topic we're focusing on or want to know about the topic. So we want to make sure that we're anticipating those things. We're paying close attention to the needs and expectations of our audience. We're writing our essays in such a way where we're building our credibility, meaning our tone is appropriate. It's not overly informal or confrontational, but written in such a way where we're inviting our readers to go along with us, but also helps to build our credibility. We're challenged to have a conclusion that does not simply summarize the main point, but instead addresses the so what question. Why do these ideas matter? What's the overall significance? What can the reader take away from this essay? So a good a good conclusion is not going to just summarize a paper. Okay, that's a carryover of the 5-paragraph essay structure where our conclusion is just a summary of what our reader just read. Trust your reader to remember what they just read. Rather, focus on addressing what we call the so what question, meaning we're underscoring the significance of this. Why do these ideas matter? What do you want your readers to take away from this? Why did they just spend X number of minutes or longer reading your paper, right? We're challenged to create a purposeful title that alludes to the focus of the essay. So titles are really important. We often throw them away just because we have to have a title, but titles are the first thing that your reader is going to read, and so we want to make sure that the title counts. Okay, so don't just throw the title away. Make sure that you're creating a purposeful title that alludes, meaning it hints at the main focus of your papers. When someone reads your title, they should have an indication of what the paper is about, roughly. So titles are important, okay? We're challenged to show ownership and pride over our work, taking care to eliminate major or distracting spelling, grammatical, and typographical errors. This is important. Whether we like it or not, the writing we produce is a representation of us, okay? Now, like I said, whether we like it or not, that's how it is, generally speaking. So the things that we put into the world, the ideas we create, the things that we build or compose, we want to make sure that they're a good representation of us and the work that we put into that, right? So we want to make sure that we're taking ownership over the things that we create. And so one way to do that is to take care to try to eliminate major or distracting spelling, grammatical, or typographical errors. So making sure that it's ready to present to the world, right? And that's why I call it a polished draft, because it's polished, right? You're taking time to clean it up to make it look pretty and sound pretty for your readers, because that's the one that you're getting ready to show to the world. You don't want to show something that you haven't worked hard on, right? And so again, we want to make sure that it's a good representation of the hard work we put into it. And then finally, we're challenged to format our essays according to MLA guidelines. So that's 12-point Times New Roman font, double spaced the entire document, 1-inch margins on all 4 sides, with a properly formatted works cited page if applicable. So if you're incorporating quotations from another text, which again I'm encouraging students to do, then you're going to need to have a works cited page to make sure that you're citing that particular source, right? I'll provide different resources for the class on MLA guidelines, so if you're not really sure what MLA format is, or maybe you're only kind of familiar with it, don't worry, I'm going to post some resources for us. That's something that we'll be working on. The due dates for this, I don't have due dates here because I'm using this video for several different classes, but the due dates for this particular essay project are found on the individual prompt in the module, so you can see what those due dates are. A note, for this major essay project, you must submit all drafts by expected deadlines in order for this project to be considered complete. If you cannot meet an expected deadline for any one of these drafts, refer to the project deadlines and submissions policy in the syllabus. So for this, we have 3 drafts in total. We have draft 1, draft 2, and the polished draft. All 3 drafts need to be submitted on time in order for this essay project to be considered complete. Okay, so we can't skip any drafts. That's not going to work. Now, if you're having trouble meeting a particular deadline, then take a look at the syllabus, look at the project deadlines and submissions policy to see what our late submission policy is. Okay. All right, well, if you have any questions on this, feel free to reach out, message me on Canvas, or send me an email at my campus email address. Otherwise, happy writing, everyone.